In this video, we will add the fifth step to the A* algorithm, and this step says that we need to take the current node from the open list and move it to the closed list, because right now the current node is actually in the open list and it doesn't need to be there anymore. It needs to be in the closed list because we're done looking at it right now. And in our case, the current node is actually our starting node. So we will also do another thing. We will change our debug code a little, because right now we are actually changing the actual color and the sprite of the original tiles in the game. And I would like to avoid changing anything in the original game. I would like to add the debug layer on top of the other of the actual game, so it doesn't interfere or change anything in the actual game. So we will actually create some other tiles for debugging instead of using the original tiles, and you'll see what I mean about that when we start doing it. Sorry that we have to change a few lines of code, because I just figured that I would like to do it like this instead of changing the original ones after I actually added the debug information. So let's get started. If we go to our script, we can go to our tile script, and the first thing I would like to do is to change the way we debug things so that we don't change the original game. Inside the tile script, we have something called a sprite renderer, and right now the sprite renderer is accessible from anyone everywhere because it's public. What I would like to do is to change this from a property to a variable. So we can make private sprite renderer and call it sprite renderer with non-capital S. There we go. And then delete the sprite renderer down here. And if you open up your error list, you'll see lots of errors here because we can't access this one anymore. That other one, it doesn't exist anymore. So click on the first error here. You'll see that it's inside the A* debugger here, and these errors will be fixed, so we can just comment them out, or you can actually delete these lines of code if you want to, and just make 2 slashes in front of them so you don't have those errors anymore when they're inside the A* debugger. Also debug path, delete, uncomment this. And here we have in start, it says that sprite renderer doesn't exist. Well, because we just renamed it to non-capital S. So do like this, so it's non-capital. And in here, in the color tile function, it tries to take our sprite renderer.color. Well, you simply also have to change this to a non-capital S. Okay, right now I think we should make this one private, because we don't need to access it from outside at the moment. So just make color tile private instead. And now you should have no errors, because everything in that had errors in the A* debugger will have to be commented out, so we don't see it. Okay, so now we need to fix this so that we can actually debug stuff without changing anything inside the original script. So to do so, we will have to create a new tile and a new script, because we also need to show some numbers later. We need to show the FG and H values, and this will make it easier for us if we do it this way. So go to your tiles and find sprites. There we are. And go to tiles and then find the blank sprite and pull it in. First of all, this blank one has a pivot point in the top left, and it will be placed wrong if we put it in the top left of the blank sprite here. So click on this when you click on the blank one and say center and click apply. There we go. Rename the blank one to Debug Tile and go to the prefabs and go to debugging and drag it in here. There we go, and delete it from the scene. In here you can click on it and see the order in layer will need to be 1 to make sure it's on top of everything else. And yeah, that's it right now. Then we have to go to our script, and then here we have to go to the A* debugger script. Here we have to create a new property, a private game object called Debug Tile. And here we say serialize field. There we go. So now we have our debug tile, and we need to use that tile whenever we need to debug something, because right now we can't show the colors or anything in the game, but we will simply have to place a tile on top of the others. So when we have to show that something is in I right click here and I right click here and press space, so right now it doesn't show anything, we'll have to take a debug tile here and we have to place it on top of these so that it shows the color or whatever, right? So that's what we are going to do from the script now. So let's see, let's make a private void called place debug tile or something. Actually let's create debug tile. So this function will create a debug tile for us. We need a position in the world, so vector free world position, and we need a color of 32 color. We need to say game object debug tile equals instantiate debug tile debug. Let's see, what did I call this one up here? Debug tile. Let's call it debug tile prefab to distinguish the two of them. So we take debug tile prefab dot world position, because we set this world position we give here, dot quaternion dot identity, so it doesn't rotate. It doesn't have any rotation. And then we need to cast it to a game object. There we go. Okay, so now we have a function that takes in a position and a color, and it can create a tile for us that we show in the game world. And then we need to set a color. Need one more. I have too many actually. There we go. And then we say debug tile dot get component sprite renderer dot color equals color. So now we also set this color we give it equal to the tile's color, right? Because it needs a color depending on what we actually do. Okay, so that's it for now. Let's try to do this. Right now we have in our click tile function here, we outcommented a lot of things here. We will actually have to create a tile here. So we delete these two outcome lines. And basically this start the debugging, we can also delete that. And we can also hit down here, delete that. So the only thing we have is start equals temp and goal equals temp here. Then we say create debug tile start dot world position. That's the position we need to position the tile in. And color is equal to color new color 32. See here what I've written, 255, 132, 0, 255. Okay, so that's the create debug tile for the start. Down here we can copy paste this and use goal world position color 32, and the color is 255, 0, 0, 255. Okay, so if we save now, go back to Unity, click on the A star debugger, take the debug tile prefab that is empty and move the debug tile up here and play the game, and right click and right click, then we'll have two positions. And now you can see there's something wrong here. Click tile is that debug. Let's see, there is a null reference somewhere, so our goal was not set, I guess. And it's actually pretty obvious what the problem is, right? I'm trying to use goal the world position here, which is of course null because I'm trying to set the goal after. So this line of code of course needs to be moved on top of this one up here. So you set the goal before you actually try to use it, right? Yeah. So let's try one more time and see what happens. So if you try to play the game one more time after you fix that little error, if you didn't already do it before I did it, right click, right click. So now we have a starting point and a goal, and we have arrows pointing, and you can always change this color if you don't want this color as I have right here. So let's jump back to the script and let's see. Now we have these, so we need to set the colors or set the tiles up for everything else here. Before we had the open list, and we need to create a tile for that as well. So delete these two lines of code and then write create debug tile node.tileref dot well position to get the position in the well we need to place it in, and then color select your color. I'm gonna use that cyan. There we go, and save. Let's try again. Right click, and then enter. Space. Okay, so now you can see there's a problem here. We can't see our arrows because the blue tiles that indicate the open list is actually covering it. So we need to fix that somehow, and we can fix that by going to this here, right here, and then we can say arrow.get component sprite renderer. And this is inside the point to parent. Sprite renderer dot order, sorting order, equals, let's say 3, for example. So now the sorting order of the arrows will be 3, and the sorting order of the tiles was 2, I think. So now the arrows will always be on top of the tiles. So let's play, right click space. And now the arrows are actually pointing at the parent because they're visible now, because they're the arrows sorting order here is 3. See, if I put it lower, then it disappears. If I put it at 3, then it shows because the tiles has a order layer of 1. So 3 is higher than 1, so we can see them here. Okay, that was let's see if I can find my place here and there. That was the fixing of the debugging. So now we can add step 5, and it's fairly simple. Actually, let's just do that. Step 5, we need to move it from the open list to the closed list, but right now we don't have a closed list, so let's go to the a star instead, and inside get path we have an open list here. And we simply need to copy and paste the open list and call it closed list, because now we need a closed list for this algorithm. So what do? We need to move it from the open list to the closed list, and that's actually fairly easy. So we can actually outside this if statement here, down here, we can say open list. Actually, I don't want to do it inside these if statements. I want to do it outside this for loop, I mean. So actually down here, I think. And I want to say open list dot remove current node, and I want to say closed list dot add current node. So we have the current node we are looking at the moment, and it basically takes the current node, removes it from the open list, and adds it to the closed list, right? So that's it. That was step 5. We just did step 5 in these 2 lines here. So that's all we needed to do. So let's try to indicate whatever is on this closed list, right? So we can go to the A star debugger, and in here we already have a debug path that runs through the open list and gives it a color. So let's simply just take this and copy it and paste it underneath, and then instead of running through the open list, we run through the closed list. So the debug path will also need a closed list as a parameter here. Go, and then we will have to say in closed list, and if the tile ref isn't start, yeah, it's fine. If it isn't start, let's also do like this, copy and paste, and it isn't, if the node the tile ref isn't a goal as well. There we go. What else? We don't need to make the arrows one more time. We already did that in the closed, in the open list here. What else? And the color, what should the color be? It should be another color dot blue. Let's take blue instead. It gets a little darker. So now everything in the closed list will be colored blue. And if it isn't start, so we won't see any change right now, but later we will see a change. we could just, yeah, it's just, if I remove this line of code here, let's say if we copy this one, paste it outside here, remember to go back and remove it, we do like this, and go back to Unity, then you'll see the middle will now turn blue. If I see, what do you have? Yeah, we need to fix this error. Where is the debug path? It also needs to take the closed list, of course. There we go, because we just asked it to do that. And if you run the game again, right click, space, and then you'll see the middle one now changes color to dark blue because on the closed list. So it worked. The starting point was moved to the closed list. So now that we know it works, we can go back to the A*debugger and remove this line of code because we're not interested in changing color of the starting node. And now all other nodes in the closed list as we go along with the tutorial will be colored dark blue. So I'm going to end this video here. Thank you very much for watching. In the next video, we will apply the step for calculating the actual values, the G-cores, for example, of the tiles. And that's also why we created these new debug tiles, to make it easier for us to see the values in the game or create the values. Don't forget to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done it already. Also, if you're interested in these sprites or any of the other assets for any of my other tutorials, you can support me on Patreon and get them as downloadable files. You can also support me and get one of my projects as a standalone product by clicking the bottom link on the screen. So, thank you very much for watching.